Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the Blacklist. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we find out who is the hitman that Townsend hired to go after Elizabeth. It's someone known as the Protean. Basically, the way Reddington describes him is basically he's kind of like a chameleon, because basically he adopts the identity of recently deceased people, and by blending into those identities he kind of hides his own identity. So obviously Reddington knows very little about kind of rough estimates of who he is. He doesn't know what he actually, like his face or his name, but kind of has a rough estimate of like his age range and stuff like that, but that's about it. Obviously Reddington goes to the FBI for help. But for them, it's like to get go through the necessary means, because Reddington's like, yeah, we got to basically look into everyone that came into the country recently, and we got to find a person who's recently deceased, and that will kind of lead us to the Protean. But Cooper's like, yeah, but there's a way of doing things, there's a system, and he was just like, no, there's a time to act out of the system, and that's kind of now, because we're against the wire. It's like, yeah, we both want to protect Liz, but for Cooper, it's like there's a way to things, like there's a chain of how all this has to work. And it's like, because we're the FBI, which even you had Dimbe being like, I told you this would be a waste of time. And so Reddington puts on his hat, it's like, yeah, we'll take care of this ourselves. So he ends up visiting a dude who works at kind of like like border control and stuff like that. So I was like, I need you to kind of help me. And he's kind of reluctant to help, because it's like, right, I'm going to get like a promotion. And I loved like the story that Reddington tells. Basically, it's about the dude who basically invented the microwave. How he like invented it by accident. The company he worked for basically paid him $2 and patented it. It's like the man who actually made it made very little money. The sad thing is that happens a lot. And so it's kind of like, okay, if you don't help us, we're going to basically put that bird of yours in the microwave. And it's like, oh, even did like, oh, maybe we have this particular sauce. And at the end of the day, he was like, Reddington's like, did you get the moral of the story? He was like, that you were going to kill my bird. He was like, no, of course not. Like, in a microwave? Would you think of me some kind of animal? It's like, not unless we had these particular sauce. But basically his point was, never trust in a corporation or your business. Like, the fact of the matter is, because the moment they have the opportunity, they'll screw you over. All you have to do, basically trust in yourself, as well as build these particular relationships. That's what keeps, it's kind of kept this country going the entire time. Not trusting an actual corporation. Because, truth be told is, when you actually break that down from a standpoint, you're like, Reddington makes sense, because your job can cut you loose at any point in time. And a lot of times it's like, if you do stuff while working at a particular job, it's not yours anymore. You lose all rights to it because you did it while working for a particular company. So all your works belong to them. So, and to be fair, Reddington's all about, building relationships between people, but also being a sole entrepreneur. And, coming from the criminal that he is, it makes sense for him to have that perspective. But, dude, I wasn't expecting everything to go down the way it did in this episode. The Protean sneaking in like that. I didn't expect Liz, because first Liz is meeting with her entire team, Etsy, Skip. The other person in her group, it's like, oh, what about Home Dude? Is like, yeah, he died last episode. So, and she's filling them in about it, and it's like, well, what did, it's like, but for her, she's like, at the very least, this could still all end. We could use this. All we have to do is find Stefanoff, and we can get him to tell whatever he knows about Reddington, that in its own right, it could come to an end. At least on that front. Like, no matter what happened, I don't know, because Liz didn't fully explain, like, that wouldn't resolve everything. Townsend would still be coming after you. And I'm curious, like, once she's exposed Reddington, like, what was she planning on doing? Like, would she have really just been able to go back to her life? That's been the big question. Like, could she have? Was that her plan? I think for her, beyond taking down Reddington, she's never really thought about it. She's just going to be with her daughter, and that's all she cares about. Sadly, she went outside to get a signal, and in that moment, the entire team got wiped. That's so depressing, especially because she was just thinking Skip. She's like, Skip, thanks. No, I really mean it. Thanks. And it's like the dude, like, Skip's there, and he's shot, and he's like, where's Liz? I'll make this quick. And he's just like, he said something like, kind of like a smart ass remark, and Etsy's up there. She's fighting thick and thin, still ends up dying in the end, and he ends up killing Skip. And by the time Liz gets back, because she was talking with the FBI about, like, oh, they don't have Stefanoff because Reddington took it. It's like, you've got an assassin after. She's like, don't worry, that Stefanoff's the more important thing. Comes back and finds her entire team wiped. And in that moment, like, she talks about it later on, but in that moment, I knew Liz was going to feel guilty, because these people, like, especially Skip and Etsy, like, they've been partners for a long time. Like, if it wasn't for Skip, she wouldn't have had the finances to do what she did. He took a chance and he rolled with her in all of this. Also, like, he got pretty close to her daughter too, so that's kind of a, we got that little, the time they spent together, and that, after they took Reddington's money. But Etsy's been, she's been there since, like, Liz shifted her sides and, like, shifted her from Reddington's side, and it's like got her on his side. So it's like they've been working together ever since. They've been partners in this. And for her, it's like, these are the people I got involved in this. And you see her in a way you haven't seen her in a while, scared, because, like, she bumps into someone, she's scared because she doesn't know, like, who the assassin could be, and it's like she's on her own now, and she hasn't been on her own in a long time. It's been a very, very long time since she's been on her own, because you could make the argument, like, she's actually never really been on her own. Even when she was on the run back at the end of season 2 and, season 3, she at least had Reddington by her side. Like, and it's like, this is the first time in a long time. Like, anytime she's ever gone through something, most of the times throughout the show, she's had the FBI there. This is like a moment of just like, yeah, I have them, but I'm also kind of laying low. So, because obviously it's also a situation where they know a lot about Elizabeth, and so it's like, yeah, like the half sister or her daughter. Luckily, Liz was able to kind of call it in to get her daughter to, and the moment it's like the lady, it's like, oh, you're like here, and that, I think that speaks volumes. That Agnes understands, like, oh, you're sent here to protect me. She's like, no, I'm just your math teacher, and she's like, you are sometimes too smart for your own good. But it makes me think, like, Liz probably kind of thinks, like, maybe Agnes is young enough that this won't matter. It's like, this is going to have some psychological implications later on down the road. Like, Agnes is probably going to remember this. Probably going to lead to them having a very complicated relationship. Not the same relationship she has with her mom, because her mom disappeared out of her life for decades. Like, it's going to be a little bit different, but, like, growing up in this situation, as a Rom kind of put it the other episode, at least Liz isn't abandoning her like her mom did. I hate using the word abandon, because, like, her mom had her reasons. It's like, I wasn't going to take you while I was out on the run. It's like, they're both, she wanted to make a different decision than her mom did. Is it the better decision? I don't know. In the long run, maybe, but it is still a thing of, you're on the run, you're trying to give your daughter some form of a normal life, but it is still a thing of, right, you're kind of mixed up in the crazy situation you are, and she's going to be mixed up in it as well, being your daughter. So, I don't know. What I really loved is the information that Reddington got and Paula helping, and she's like, oh, like, lucky for you, it's bingo night. He's like, I thought I'm talking about this. She's like, no, that's what I'm talking about, helping you find this person. He's like, what? She's like, what'd you think I was talking about? He's like, I thought you were just talking about bingo. And I love the whole thing. This episode showcases why Paula is MVP. And I love Reddington being like, having to talk. He's like, hey, she's the lady that's supposed to be running things tonight is going. But yeah, here's some listing. It's like, yeah, this is what first place gets, second place gets. Yeah, so-and-so made this. So it's like, just the awkwardness of it. And then it's like, right. So basically, we're going to play a new game tonight instead of regular bingo. Fact is, I want you to call these numbers. You have a page of numbers in front of you. You call them, you find the person. You get, like, for every page you finish, you get $100. When you find the person, you're going to get 1,000. And you're like, what? I love that guy that constantly cut to, what'd he say? What'd she say? I love that. It's just like, oh boy. And then Paula comes swooping in because, you're losing it because they want just regular bingo. And Paula lied on the spot, being like, the fact of the matter is, this is Father Stephen. He's a priest. And there's someone that stole money from the church, from a particular gymnastic program or something like that. And he's trying to find the person. And they're using a dead man's name to hide themselves. And it's like, yeah. And to, like, rally them all to do that. And it's like, yo. It's like, oh, his faith is kind of shaken a little bit right now. Let's kind of help restore. It's like, Paula. And then later on, like, I'm wondering, is Reddington going to use this? Like, honestly, it's like, this system actually works. I could utilize this in the future. Like, once again, Paula showing her work, because despite everything, let's not forget who Glenn was. Glenn was kind of the goofball he was, but Glenn was really good at his job. And like, once again, it's just like, it's nice to know that it's like Glenn's living on through his mom. I love that actress. I love her so much. She's like, just her as Paula. She's so adorable and she's so good, because like, obviously it's like, oh, look at all these people. Like, they're coming up with backstories, like, and coming up with BS on the spot it's like, oh, your friend, these people here are very imaginative on the spot to get the information that we need, trying to track them. Because like one lady was like, oh yeah, I'm from a mortuary, and like, you know, wanting to know about, you know, a family with someone that's recently deceased or something like that. I was like, wow. And even him being like, yeah, I was kind of surprised you were willing to help me, knowing, because you don't know what I'm going to do to this person when I catch him. And for her, it's like, yeah, I kind of don't 100%, but it's like, for her, it's like, she believes at the end of the day, Reddington's trying to do the right thing. And for her, it's also like, she's like, also, it's kind of like carry on the legacy of my boy Glenn. Like, you know, it's like a family tradition of helping you out. And I'm like, oh, Paula, I love you so much, Paula. You're great. You're amazing. Dude. Once again, it's just like, I think it's such a neat thing, because you definitely, like, that actress definitely dialed in at aspects of making you go like, oh, Paula's definitely Glenn's mom. She is definitely Glenn's mom with her personality and just the whole thing of like, just her whole energy. You definitely get the like, she was really able to dial it in and make you really believe like, no, that's definitely Glenn's mom, you know. And I think that's such a beautiful touch to the episode. But sadly, because they couldn't get to because Home Dude couldn't get to Agnes, he's going after Jennifer instead. And I thought it was so interesting, like his conversation with Townsend, because Townsend was like constantly calling him. He just finally was like, yeah, and he's like, no, you're not just gonna give me 3-word answers. And he hangs up, and Townsend's like, you're not going to. He's like, all right, basically, I need you to calm the hell down. The fact of the matter is, I don't want to waste time when there's nothing to be said. So until I get some new information, just stay calm, blah blah blah, and as I will contact you then. So, but he ends up taking Jennifer. And kind of leads Liz into a trap, but in the process, Jennifer gets shot, and you're like, Jesus. It's like, damn it. It's like, but Liz is like, don't worry. She's like, feed my cat. Or it's like, no, don't worry. You're gonna feed your cat. We're gonna get that cat nice and fat. And you'll be quite surprised when you get out of the hospital to see them too. It's like, it's gonna be okay. And it's just like, for her, it's like, why do I deserve this? You know, it's like, because at the end of the day, it's because I'm your sister, you know. And it's like, oh God, you know. And she's like, hold me. She's like, no, it's okay. I'm gonna hold you when we get to the hospital. It's gonna be okay, you know. And then, like, you know, for Jennifer, because for her, it was like, we can be with Agnes, and the fact of the matter is, everything is gonna be okay. We're gonna be staying with Miss French. Like, we're gonna be a family. And then, like, for her sister to die, it's just like, fuck, dude, that sucks. Like, that. It's always heart-wrenching when stories do that. You bring a character back in, because, like, the last time we saw Jennifer was season 5, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken. No, that was, yeah, I think it was some point in season 5. It might have been 6. That was a lot, like, she left, like, partway through the season to kind of disappear, because she was all about the revenge against Reddington, but then she kind of took a step back. Just to brought her back just to kill her, you know? And Liz feels even more guilty because here's another person that has to pay the price because of me. And obviously, I think this is setting up a very interesting parallel between her and Townsend. Townsend's the motivation behind everything he's done is the massacre of his family. And in one fell swoop, he wiped out this new budding family that Liz was making for herself. Well, for one, you killed her half-sister. It's like the only biological family she has left. Because her dad's dead, her mom's dead, now her half-sister's dead. The friend she had by her side, Skip Etsy, once again, I always feel bad for, like, her third person, because I guess it's like, you were kind of hired guns, so it's like, I don't care about you guys as much, but, Skip and Etsy, it's like, I think that's just kind of funny in a morbid way. But for her, she believed in salvation, that if you were good, you were rewarded, if you were bad, you were punished. And now, because of the way the world is, for her, it's like, I don't believe in that anymore, because you were a good person, you weren't a bad person, and you got punished, you know? And it's like, she's like, at the very least, she's hoping, like, if there's some afterlife or something, that Jennifer, Etsy, and Skip are being, you know, looked after, because she owes him everything. It's like, you guys were like, the only reason why you're dead is because of your connection to me. You guys didn't necessarily do anything necessarily wrong. It's like, because you had my back, because you were a connection to me, you know? So, and she ended up leaving her sister's body there to be found. Reddington ended up finding the name, gave it to the crew, gave it to the FBI, who then, you know, they show up at the hotel, which I love, like, Parker's like, oh, 12, that's my lucky number. And they literally bump into the dude, and it's like, oh, yeah, later on, it's like, yeah, this guy. And it's like, seriously, we just bumped into him, and he ended up being the guy. Yeah, so much for your lucky number, Park. I mean, maybe it is, because they did bump into him. But, Liz, they found out where her address was, but it's also like, yeah, I'm sorry about your sister. We'll go get her body so we can get her a proper burial. But, he knows where you are. Don't tell me you're there. So he shows up. Liz isn't there. But then in that moment, he's like, yeah, we're going to meet. I'll meet you in this particular place when I've got Keen. And Liz has got a gun pointed to him. And he's just like the smarmy stuff coming out of his mouth. He's like, really? Like, kind of saying like, oh, were they really your friends or something like that? It's like, it's really a time to be smarmy like that. Maybe because he felt like he wanted to feel like he was in control. Because I guess for him, it's like, right, you're not going to kill me. Well, to a certain extent, maybe he was also hoping she would pull the trigger because it's like, right, that way I die and you never get the information you actually need. So, which sadly ends up being the case because he ends up taking Liz's gun during the struggle and Wrestler ends up putting him down. It's like, no, you can't die until you get me the information, because for her, it was like, she was telling the entire squad, like, Park, Aram, and Wrestler to get back. She's like, I need this information. Like, my sister's dead because of him. I need to find Townsend and make him pay for all of this, And I think that's the complicated poetic irony, at least in Townsend's book, probably because it's like, right, whatever it is he learned from Stepanoff, it's like you have to in some shape or form be responsible for why his family's dead, hence why he wants you dead so much. We'll find out. Like, I would assume, like I said, it has to have something to do with why that group of people turned against him, because of the archive. Like, she has to have some connection to the archive. Like, either she's the key to the archive, she is the archive, I don't know. But then Reddington calls up Cooper because Cooper's like, yeah, we got her, we're taking her in custody. He's like, that's not the right thing to do. It's like, on some shape or form, you're hoping that basically Liz can go to jail, that the system works, she'll be rehabilitated, that, it's like, she can never be an FBI agent again, she can never be a citizen, a civilian again. Bring her to me. She belongs, like, regardless of what, it's not what I wanted, it's not what you wanted. The fact of the matter is, she is a criminal, she belongs in this world. And, it's like, I hope that's not the case. And Reddington's like, me too, but he knows that it is. And then as Liz is being taken away, she's glaring at Cooper. Like, the fact of the matter is, considering everything she's done to get to this point, like, we've seen that. Like, to me, season 5 was, like, the real point of, like, there's elements beforehand. Because even when they were on the run together, she was having fun. But definitely in season 5, she started having a lot of fun. Like, oh, I really like all this criminal stuff before, like, everything about, because it was at the time when she thought he was Ilyov and everything, so there's that element to it. But yeah, because I thought about it in retrospect. It's like, right, because she found out about her half sister in season 5, and then they did the whole operation in season 6, right? So see, now I'm kind of working it out in my head. Season 6 is the last time we saw Jennifer, but like I said, it wasn't at the end of the season. It was like part way through the season. Like, she wasn't around the entire season. But nevertheless, tangents. I kind of went on a tangent there, but that's definitely going to be interesting. Like, I think Cooper thinks he is helping Liz in the long run, because yes, she is a criminal, so she has to be kind of brought to justice. Once again, it's that aspect of, yes, Cooper is aware of there being shades of gray, but he is very, like, when it comes to the law, he is kind of, in certain regards, he's played that area of gray for so long that he wants things to kind of go back to being black and white, but they're not. Like, at this point, there is no going back to Liz. After everything that she's lost in this moment, all that she's done to get here and to lose everything in it, it's like, no. Like, to get back to her daughter, too, it's like, it's not going to be that simple. Plus, we're talking about Townsend. No matter where she is, where you got her locked up, Townsend is coming out. And there's also another point that Cooper brought up to Wrestler this episode, too, of like, yo, watch your back. Like, he came after Liz's team, he'll come after us, too. And they're like, yeah, her team is wiped out. You guys are the barrier to getting to her next. So, to get to her, Townsend's going to rip through the FBI, in particular that team. Everyone that cares about her. I don't know, the Protean doesn't pass on any information about, well, he doesn't know where Agnes is, so getting to her isn't going to be an option. But I'm sure if Townsend could do that, he would, just to make a point. Once again, his form of poetic justice, because he watched his children die in front of him. It's kind of, he'll probably make Liz watch and then have Reddington watch both of them die. Like, it'll probably turn into something like that. So this was a wild episode, dude. I'm so curious to see where things take us next episode, because Liz is going to be sitting with this. Like, a lot of that guilt is going to eat her away at her, and where she was already crossed that line and on it, like, I think this, like, sitting on it, like, isn't going to make it better. Like, this is actually probably going to make things worse. It's, once again, Despite everything she's done, Reddington's still like, no, like, bring her here to me. She might want to take me down, she might want to expose me, but I'm doing everything. Because even at the beginning, it's like, no, Reddington's trying to help you. She's like, no, Reddington's just trying to help himself. It's because of whatever it is Stefanoff knows is going to, like, expose him. But it's like, despite all that, Reddington has his reasons for keeping the secrets he's had kept. But despite all that, it's like, Liz isn't important. She's the reason behind everything. And eventually that truth, I think, is going to come out by the end of the season. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be something we get in season 9. Maybe the top of the season. But I get the feeling at the end of the season we'll learn, like, what it is that Townsend figured out. Now, whether Townsend himself is alive by the end of the season, I don't know. He did tell that the Protean was like, don't do it. But now that he's dead, he's definitely going to send it. And, like, he's basically putting a bounty on her head like... he did Katerina. Katerina was on the run for decades because of this. Like, who knows if Liz is incarcerated now, but we'll see whether how that really plays out. It'd be kind of interesting if it ends up being kind of very similar to, maybe that's kind of the parallel they're going for, like Reddington getting arrested at the very beginning of the series, and just despite being behind bars, still being in control. Not necessarily the same thing with Liz, but eventually, like, Reddington probably is going to end up breaking her out to, like, it's like, right, she's better and safer by my side, because if she's there, well, to be fair, even if Reddington rescues her, Townsend's still going to rip through the FBI, in particular with them, just to make a point as well. So, like, it's just going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.